Welcome everyone to another episode of Unscripted Coding. Today we are actually going to look at AnythingLLM, and this is an open source alternative. I say that hesitatingly because it's a little more than just an alternative to Nvidia's Chat with RTX. Now let's think back. We're still talking about LLM AI chatbots. That is, large language models like chat-gpt, Claude, Pi, where you can interact with an AI. Now, for me and you having regular chats about where our next vacation might be, what a good dessert to make is, it makes perfect sense to just chat with ChatGPT and ask away. But if you think about working in a workplace where you might look at, say, an employment contract or an employment matter, that information is pretty sensitive, and you absolutely shouldn't be putting it into just any random chatbot on the internet, because you don't know if they'll train on your data, if they'll mine your data, if they'll sell your data, blah, 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 blah. So the best way to keep all of this to yourself, away from all of these online vendors and cloud services, is to run it all locally. And so Nvidia's Chat with RTX was a pretty interesting idea. You have your Nvidia graphics card, so you have something that can run these AI models with sufficient speed, and you're running it all locally on your own computer. Now again, you need, a pretty decent modern computer, pretty expensive computer, but you can run it all locally on your own computer. My experience with Chat with RTX was so I did take a look and to see if anything else is out there, and AnythingLLM popped up. I am going to boot this up right now. I downloaded it for Windows, installed it. There's really not too much more to say here, but this is where we're at. We have a get started. I haven't started anything, but in theory, AnythingLLM will let you use embeddings and vectors locally on your computer. So you can use your graphics card to look at files on your own computer, and you can connect with local models, or for all of the above, connect online. And so this is kind of nice because you can mix and match it. You can have all your files stored locally, but share it with GPT-4 or Claude Opus or Claude Sonnet. So you can pick and choose, or you can use these models online, but use the models locally, but do the embeddings all online because you trust a certain vendor. Mix and match is pretty important because if you take a look at the options for LLMs, the gold standard is OpenAI. There's no doubt about it. GPT-4 is the gold standard. So running something locally like Ollama is going to be, you're not going to have as good a conversation. So you have to pick and choose. Now for me, if I was doing this in a workplace, Azure OpenAI is pretty enterprise ready. That might be an option for you to choose if you need a really strong, powerful LLM. But we have installed Ollama in our previous video, and I'm just taking a look at it now, and trying to get it up and running. Just a sec here. Okay, so now that it's running, we can have Ollama. Let's take a look. Now Ollama just runs an icon at the very bottom, and that's why I'm... Alright, so Ollama is now running in the background. I just had to install and double click it, and it took a bit of time to confirm that the base URL is right. So let's give it a moment to load the available models. Let me just double check that Ollama's actually running. Very good. Let's see if I can skip over. Perfect. All right, embedding preferences. So once again, you can actually run online services. So OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, but let's use the built-in engine here. And finally, I think there is something built in here as well. Ah, perfect. 100% local vector. That sounds great. So in theory, between these three, everything should be running offline. We can disconnect and be able to use it. So we'll skip the survey and we'll call this YouTube demo. And here we go. Okay, so first of all, let's just try a regular chat. Hello there. And now it should be reaching to my Phi model in Ollama to try and get a response. Now this seems slower than when I had run it purely on Ollama on a command line, but let's try this again. I'm doing well. Can you tell me about Harry Potter, let's say? Perfect. Now we're starting to get the right speed. Harry Potter is a series of 7 fantasy novels. That sounds about right. Now, the next thing I wanted to do, and let's see if we have the settings. The next thing I wanted to do is to actually connect files into this. So we have history of chats. We can change how things look. We can obviously choose the models again. Transcription model. Data connectors. Interesting. Let's disable the telemetry. And okay, so I think here is where we can start connecting files, or maybe not. Aha, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to reach into my bag of files here, and I'm just going to drop all sorts of authorization forms into here. And so normally how these things work is it should take just a little bit of time to embed these files properly. I find it very strange that some files aren't being accepted, but I think they might be all of the docx files. Maybe not. So we have these documents. Let's see if I can try again and add a whole bunch more. I guess every time it has to be fresh. That's a bit strange to me. but this time we're getting more documents. Nope, I think I see duplicates now. All right, let's try this out. What kind of authorization would I use if I wanted to take my child home from the hospital? So I have an authorization to release child from hospital. No, that doesn't seem very promising. So I wonder if I can drop into here. Okay, let's pull up the file to take a look. Seems simple enough. This is quite disappointing. So I think I'm going to log off for a second, take a look at the documentation, and come right back. Okay, so with the handy YouTube video from Tim Karambat, I was able to see where we screwed up. So let's go back to files, and we can click all of these and move it into the workspace. So I knew there was something here. I kept trying to click this and it didn't quite work, but now it should take a little bit of time to generate that embedding, and that was the issue of that was what confused me at first. You do need some processing to try and index, embed, create vectors, whatever they want to call it, to make all of these files searchable, basically. And so this might take a moment. We'll let it run. Unfortunately, I wasn't recording my voice in that last little segment, so we're going to run through this again very quickly. So one of the challenges was I kept trying to click here to the center right here to move files over, because I recognized that we were uploading to this document section but not moving it into our workspace. Very simply, and I have a hello world file here. It's not right. Let's try again over here. And we have the hello world file. We were supposed to check one of these boxes and move it over by clicking this. So we can move over a hello world file, and we can save and make the embedding. Now, when I had about, what is that, maybe 30 different doc files, it took about 1.5 minutes. Now I'm just uploading one simple text file, so it took, a couple of seconds here. This is going to be a little bit different, but let's start a new thread, which is brand new. When we click upload a document, you can see already our workspace has a bunch of different files. And if I hover one of these, Let's take a look. Release of medical records. Authorization for the release of medical records. I might say, do you have a file for the release of medical records? It's going to go through and it'll apologize because it can't recognize a text. That's clearly not what was intended. But you can see that it is citing different files. Now this first one, resealing information, that's not right, not right. And for municipal police department, not right either. So it's not picking up the file that I was looking for, which was that authorization of release of medical records. Now, since I've already done this, I did a couple different tests. Let's go one more time and say, do you have a hello world text file? And hopefully it will find it. Let's try this one more time. Wonder what the issue is, but let's just try a new thread and see if we're going to. Clearly something is wrong. But if we go back to some of the threads I had before, you will see that I tried to fetch a different file, and once again it cited the wrong one. So in this case, I was looking for some sort of authorization to release a child from the hospital, and it's picking up authorizations, but that's all I uploaded into it. Long story short, it just wasn't working very well. And it doesn't surprise me. I am using Phi, which is a poor, very small model. But I also took the time to actually switch into GPT. So if I use GPT-4 here and try one more time, do you have a hello world file? Well, something is clearly not working quite right. Oh, okay. Let's go back into the settings, LLM preference, and I'm going to go back to Ollama here. You know what? Let's skip it. Not too important here. What was important was that during those last segments, I tried a number of times to fetch files. And I think the problem is that it's getting very poor citations. Something, the embeddings and the vectors file is serving up the wrong files. It didn't really matter that we were using Phi or GPT-4 because the underlying file, the file was not the right one. So there's not a whole lot the model can say. Sure, it could be more eloquent, it could say it in more words or fewer words, but it wasn't even picking up the right file, so it wasn't giving the right information. As I was doing that section of the video, I started looking at maybe we'll use Pinecone, maybe we'll use OpenAI's embedding providers, but that starts to defeat the purpose of why we tried to use AnythingLLM in the first place, which was to have this entirely offline. Now, I had a mediocre experience with Chat with RTX, but in this case, again, we're talking about everything locally run on my computer. I had an even worse experience with AnythingLLM. Now, I'll give it to them that their interface looks much nicer, much more polished, but running their local embedding and vector database, it wasn't great. Running Ollama, that's okay, and depending on your choice of models, that will run very similarly or close to Chat with RTX. But if your goal is to run all of this locally on your computer, I can firmly say that neither are great choices, but I'd lean slightly towards Chat with RTX today, especially because it looks like they did a recent update as well. That said, I don't want to knock on AnythingLLM LLM too hard, because you can ultimately mix and match, and that may be something very valuable to you if you want to use different models paired with different embedding models. So you can use OpenAI for the LLM, but you decide you want something else for your embedding model. This, breaks you out of OpenAI's ecosystem. It gives you a nice interface to work with. All of that is very positive, and I have no doubt that if you decide to use OpenAI with Pinecone, that you might be able to get much, much, much better results. But again, my purpose originally was seeing if I could run this all locally on a computer, and maybe we should revisit this in 3 months or 6 months, because it's clearly not there. It's a brand new idea, definitely, to run this locally. And I don't know if a lot of people have this on their radar, so I don't know that this is high priority for Nvidia or these folks here. But long story short, not quite there yet. It's a cool idea. This is a great interface. This is a great demo, but it needs more work. So we'll revisit this, I'm sure. I hope you enjoyed this video, and subscribe and check us out next week for another quick project or demo.